I'm gonna hit my 30-second. It should. So it is going live right now. It is going live. Let me check on my Facebook page. It should. So it is going live right now. It is going live. Let me check on my Facebook page. Oh, can you hear me? It should. So it is going live right now. It's kind of got a. It is going live. This. It's kind of got a. It's going live. This. Trying to turn it down. Something. Can you hear me as soon as I speak? I'm just. Okay. Can you hear me as soon as I speak? I'm just making sure I can get it. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Kevin Hunt. This is season 2 of Your Voice, Your Reason. Episode 1. Hello, everybody. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is Kevin Lieutenant, Hunt. Is your phone something? I'm trying to figure out what's causing this episode 1 to echo like this. Y'all, excuse me. Give me 1 second. Lieutenant, is your phone? Okay, I know what it is. I'm trying to figure out what's causing this episode to echo like this. I think give 1 second. I think I know what's happening. Okay, I know what it is. I think. If you all can hear me, can you hear me? Tracy saying you can't hear me? I think I know what's happening. Okay. I think. Okay. Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Tracy saying you can't hear me? I think I know what's happening. See, it's got a delay in it for some reason. I don't know why. But I'm gonna proceed on. Like I said, I'm Kevin Hunt. This is the second season of Your Voice, Your Reason, and today I'm honored to have a guest, retired Lieutenant Glenn King of the Little Rock Police Department, homicide. He was in the homicide for many years, and I'm gonna let him tell his story. And Lieutenant, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, I'm Glenn King, retired LRPD homicide commander. First of all, I'm from College Station, Arkansas, right over by the airport, and I started the police department in 1979. Born in Little Rock, raised in College Station. I'm one of 12 children. I have 2 daughters, a son, and a wife, and I still have bunches of nieces and nephews, and most of my people are still in the Little Rock area. And like I say, I started my police career in 1979, and I think before we got started, you were kind of asking why and how I got into policing. Well, it was kind of a fluke. I was working for General Electric down on Lindsay Road, and they started going out of business and cutting people. So I went to the city and applied for a job, nothing specific. For some reason, I ended up testing for police officers, and they had 464 candidates that tested. So we used to test a lot of people for police officers in the late 70s, and I was one of 8 people out of the 464 that were hired. When I was hired on there were probably only about 20 to 22 other black officers. So the Little Rock Police Department had a very small black officer field back then.
This was 1979.
This was 1979. So, and like I said, they only had very few blacks and even fewer females. I don't think there were about 2 or 3 black females when I got on the department. Mm-hmm. But I got there when I first started. I didn't really like policing, and I worked a short time and I quit. But I ended up going right back because the Justice Department had sent a letter one year when I was on vacation. The first year I was off, asking, why I quit and, were blacks having a hard time at the Little Rock Police Department. And I really told them the truth. I didn't have any issues at the police department. I just didn't, just not what I had planned on doing. But they gave me an offer. I took it and I went back and I remained there for 37 years. My career included, I was a patrolman for about 7 or 8 years. I only worked the patrol division about 2 years. I made detective in about 2 years. So the majority of my career there has been as a something in the detective field up until about 1990 or 91 when I first got promoted and made sergeant. And the then chief decided that he wanted me to go at training and start what they call the police personnel unit, which the police personnel unit was basically the hiring unit within the police department. And back then, from 1991 to about 96, I hired 250, 270 people. And they were kind of amazed because the city was saying that, okay, we can't get blacks to put in, we can't hire blacks if they don't apply. And we kind of found that to be not necessarily true because I got a lot of effort from myself, the people that worked with me, and mainly other police officers. And back then, we went to all the major colleges, including UAPB, Euler, Pine Bluff, University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, Grambling, Jackson State. So we went everywhere recruiting, and we did extremely well. Like I said, but my career there mainly was, I guess I'm kind of still a homicide detective. I still work there part-time as a cold case homicide detective, but I was told I was the first black homicide detective there.
Oh.
I was the first black homicide supervisor there. And like I said, I commanded that unit for 16 years from the year of 2000 to 2006. And I know at some point we talked about the challenges of black officers there. And the challenges were many, but if you were intelligent, you knew that, just to be honest, probably some people didn't necessarily want you there. So that made you be a little bit more careful and make you try to do actually a better job. So I navigated that pretty good and didn't have any problems there. Now, one of the problems that I noted early on was the promotional process.
Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, back then you had to naturally take a written test, and pretty much your written test determined where your ranking would be on a list. And when I came through the first test I took, uh, they had what they call police clusters. They would have an A cluster, B cluster, C cluster, and a D cluster, and it would be 5 or 6 people, per cluster, and they would fill up A cluster before they promoted anybody, B cluster, C, and on down the line, and that's how you would get promoted. They soon changed that system and went to just you had a written testing. You had to do what they call an assessment center, and that was a process put in place. I've been told by the German military on how they would determine who their leaders would be. So you got so many points on the assessment center, and they would combine these two groups, your written test and your assessment center, and that would determine your ranking on the list. Now, these lists did not have the cluster. It simply went, if 12 people tested, the highest overall score 1 through 12 is how that list would be. And I think what a lot of people don't understand, and this is even currently, the Little Rock testing procedure now, when a list is put out, like I said, if it's 12 people on it, it's 1 through 12. And this applies for the Little Rock Police Department and the Little Rock Fire Department. Number 1, 2, and 3 are actually considered equal, meaning that police chief or that fire chief could take either one of those people. If it wasn't but one position that they were going to fill, he might have wanted number 3 number three might have some special skills or something for whatever that police chief or fire chief goals were. So it's not unusual. You see people now saying, well, it's wrong when they promote number three and don't promote number one right off. Now, the thing I've noticed from most chiefs, if they promoted number three, they would make sure that they went back and got number two or number one. So basically, I don't recall them just really leaving a person out there and not promoting them. Myself, I benefited the uh, from the rule of threes twice when I made
Mm-hmm.
sergeant, and like I say, they wanted me to do the police personnel unit because I brought some extra skills in when I came to work there. So,
Mm-hmm.
and when I made lieutenant or commander out there, I was also, I think I was number two on that list, but I got promoted before the number one person. But they still ended up promoting that number one person later on because most lists back then lists were good for 1 year. Now lists are good for 2 years, which makes it much better if you are in that in the top three or the top six or whatever. You really stand a much better chance because now you have a 2 year list of eligibility instead of the 1 year list of eligibility.
So are you meaning the 2 year list, meaning you get to stay on there for 2 years, and so
Yes,
the
sir.
next,
You get to
the next, okay,
right. You
if you
get to
look
stay
over
on
that
that list for
person,
2 years before that everybody has to test over again and they generate
oh,
a new list.
oh, so it used to be 1 year in your time, and then they moved it up to 2 year. So
Right,
that's
later.
yeah.
It
So
takes
that
two
so
years to exhaust the list now. So your
yeah.
eligibility runs for 2 years.
Okay, Lieutenant King, I have a questions on. I think you may have asked this from Andrew Stewart, and they said it in the '90s. How was it? How was the outreach being done for helping communities? And do you think it's to be effective today? I guess it's more like what you did to recruit 200. And is that something that they're still doing in the Little Rock Police Department force today? The recruitment part.
They
Well, it
are.
was the outreach being done for to help outreach being done to help our community. Okay, so they're saying the outreach that has been done that was done back in the day to help our community are just those relations, those partnerships, relationship that you had with something like organizations like maybe say the Watershed or something from years ago.
Well, now I personally never connected with any other specific groups or organizations. I just did bare bones recruiting. Now
Mm-hmm.
I have seen many more black recruits. Even right now, when I go through there, the little time that I do work, I see a lot of new faces. Tremendous amount of them are blacks. I see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
new faces. Tremendous amount are white, which lets me know that the recruiting seems to be going pretty well in the mix of the people that they hire because it's going to take everybody in this community. You're going to need blacks, whites. I see many more Hispanic police officers now because the population demographics has changed so much in the
Mm-hmm.
Little Rock area. So you need this kind of diversity to make it be a better understanding of communications and policing in Little Rock.
Mm-hmm. And I was just simply talking about outreach and connecting and why is it so why is it so hard to recruit especially African Americans to become police officers? I mean, we understand like this stigma out here that they think all police officers are a certain way. What is your response to that? If someone said, "No, police officers are dirty and low down," what is your has been your response when you heard someone say something like that?
When I hear people say things like that, I simply listen to it because, gosh, I've known so many police officers in my
Mm-hmm.
career. Like I said, I've been around that place over 40 years now, directly involved um, with a lot of officers. And man, I can only tell you about 7 or 8 what I consider bad apples in police officers
Mm-hmm.
that I personally knew. Now, I will admit that I didn't know every officer that come through there and didn't try to track them. But my overall feeling is that 99.9 of your police officers are going to be great officers. They're going to be honest officers, and they're going to try to do the best job that they can do. I didn't see abuse, and I'm the type that watch. I'm also an intervener. If I would see an officer do something that I didn't think was ethical or right, I have no problem approaching that officer. But I was blessed, and I never had to do that. And I believe me, I'm watching everybody, including myself, because like I said, our
Yeah.
citizens come first, and I just don't believe in mistreating of anybody. And I've seen some people that probably needed a little mistreating sometimes just by the way they treated the officer. But I saw the officers back off and be very professional and avoid making a situation go worse.
And I have two questions. It's on Facebook. Michelle Richardson asks, "How long did it take you to move up to your position?" And maybe Michelle got to have somebody on the force or something, and she just want to get a good idea how long did it take you to get to that position you was at before you retired.
Like I say, when I first hired on in 79, I made sergeant somewhere around 1990, 91. And you have to take in effect too that you don't just always have a whole lot of positions open.
Yeah.
So it's not a guarantee that, well, next year it's going to be 10 openings. It doesn't work like that. Positions are usually made by people retiring, and in most years you're not going to have a whole lot of people retired. But like I said, I made sergeant in 90 or 91, and in 1997 I made lieutenant, which was a commander of the. I actually went to the Canis Road location there out there off of Canis Street, where that new substation was. So I was the commander there over property crimes, and that was in 1997. And in the year of 2000, I got moved to downtown to be the commander of the homicide unit. And to be honest, I really didn't want to do that. I was quite happy with where I was. And as my old boss said, I went to one of the assistant chiefs and I said, man, I really don't want to do that. He said, well, let me make it clear to you, it's not up to you. He said, you need to need to pack up and come on downtown. So that's what I did. And I stayed there from 2000 to 2016, same position, which was very lengthy. We usually don't have anybody to stay that long in a position there, but we yielded very good results, and we showed a lot of caring and compassion for people, and we worked. This was probably one of the worst jobs there, having to deal with other people's tragedies, but still, we were there for them and still trying to solve a lot of the cases that we missed out on because we know how people love their loved ones, and
Yeah.
we just want to help. And it's always my prayer, Lord, just let me help somebody.
Yeah.
So we
And I'm
try
glad you
really
said
hard.
that. And I'm glad you said it because on Facebook, Sunny Kelly, which I know her. How you doing? She's actually from College Station as well. She's asked,
That
like,
name rings a bell. I think I know
yeah,
her too.
yeah, you know her. She may be your cousin. I know she's tagging all these College Station people on here
I
now.
think she knew my mama now, as they say.
I see she tagging all these College Station people over here. So, but
Okay.
it said, what level is mental health addressed for the police officer? Because I know you all, especially you saying that you was in a homicide, and I'm just thinking, I come from community. I've seen a few bodies in my life and shootings been around, but just to see it every day and receiving those calls, like that mental health part for just no regardless of what color you are, like how did y'all address that and how did you deal with that being a homicide detective?
Well, we had like EAP, and one of the better things they did, they hired several ministers that the police officers, including myself, had access to. If you needed that kind of support or that kind of help, the police department actually put them on the payroll. So this made it easy access for officers. And officers work under a lot of stress, tremendous amount of stress. Your day could start out real happy with a cup of coffee, and they always say a donut. I never knew the officers that ate donuts. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I missed out on the donuts being the guys that worked around me. But your day could start off, and next thing you know, you may get a traffic accident or something, dealing with a fatality, or you get a shooting call. So your day can go real bad, and your mentality is challenged just about every day as a police officer. So getting the pastors and the EAP, this was kind of your event relief, to make sure. And if you ever felt that you were so stressed or whatever, and I admire the city for this, they would provide you with whatever you need, up to and including time off and, paid time off. So I think that we had a very understanding city of Little Rock, and I will say this, I'm proud to have worked for the city of Little Rock. 40 years of great service.
That's great. I watch a lot of TV over years. For instance, Lethal Weapon and this show with police officers, and I always noticed that usually those police officers didn't stay married long. And so, is that true? That it's because the stuff that they deal with at work, they used to bring it home, and it'd be challenges going to home, and it just has so much going. I guess it's a mental health part in it. But I always noticed on the TV, you usually see single police officers on TV, and I was just like, I wonder if that's real or just something they just put on TV.
I think that's something. I knew most of the officers I knew were married, and if officers were like me, I made it a habit. I didn't take my work home with me as a police officer, and believe me, I have seen probably 2,500 dead bodies. I've worked over 1,000 homicides, and I still work cold cases, but I didn't bring my stuff home to my family, wife, and kids. I didn't think they were equipped to handle it, because I wasn't really equipped to handle it, but I did it. But it wasn't just something I wanted to share. So my remedy for that was just not to bring it home with me.
Oh, and Sonny Kelly says she's Marcus' sister.
I know.
Yeah.
I know exactly who she is. She's an author, and Marcus is trying to write a book. Well, he just wrote one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So here's another thing I want to just the question about, because the lawsuits, you hear about all those lawsuits, and me and you talked about it. I just want to hear a little bit about why would somebody file a lawsuit when someone is being promoted, and was it directly just at African Americans, or was it anybody that applied for they got promoted?
Well, truthfully, when I was coming through, especially for sergeant, and I think it had relaxed quite a bit when I was applying for lieutenant. Yeah, I think it was directed toward Afro Americans. Why? I don't know, because it was such a small number of African Americans there anyway. I don't know exactly why it was done, but that was my impression, that they didn't really want to see Afro Americans promoted. And we were blessed again with there was a Black attorney named Daryl Brown, and I was a member of the Little Rock Black Police Association. And I can tell you this, that was a very broke organization. We didn't have any money. We couldn't hardly fight a lawsuit. But Daryl gave us his time and his effort. And the one year we had 3 blacks to make it off of one sergeant's test. That was unheard of. And we always appreciate Daryl. He's gone now, but he was really committed, didn't mind helping, and he saw the problems that we were having. And he stepped in and helped do something about it. And I think after that, things started going pretty smooth. Now, I've talked to other officers that were there well before me, black officers, and they really had a lot of horror stories about trying to get promoted. And they too, every list they got on, they ended up having to be a lawsuit to get them promoted.
And that's a double lawsuit, a lawsuit to keep them from getting there. Then they had to file a lawsuit just to get promoted, to be treated right. And how did you say you didn't have a lot of experience, but how does that make you feel going to work, or what you have heard when somebody go to work and knowing that they don't really want, the people that hired them don't really want them to be there? Like, mentally, how can you just get up every morning and say, I'm gonna go do my job?
it made me feel really good because I made up in my mind a long time ago, I
Yes,
ain't gonna let
sir.
nobody hold me
Yes,
back.
sir.
And I don't care who you are. I know what I want. I know how to
Yes, sir.
get results. I knew I was intelligent. I worked around a lot of intelligent guys. And you had to be just intelligent to even pass these tests. They were not meant
Hmm.
for people that didn't study and things. So you had to put forth a lot of individual effort there. But
Hmm.
I never, and even I don't let other people change what I want to do and how I do it. You know, it's all on me, and I know how to get good results.
Yeah. So do you think those same systems are in the Little Rock Police Department now, or or have they changed dramatically, or are we still just a little bit better than what we was in 1979 and the 80s and the 90s? Like, because like I said, I went to that support Chief Humphrey event, and I heard the guy tell the story about he worked for his position, but he got promoted under Chief Humphrey. And so when I heard that, I was just thinking, like, why didn't he get promoted prior to Chief Humphrey being there? And it just kind of had a lot of things going on in my mind. I was just curious about. So are those same systems hindering African Americans who really overqualified, keeping them from being in the position that they're in? Not just African Americans, Hispanics, and as well too. I'm certain.
I don't think so. Actually, my vision from what I see around there, I see a lot of Afro Americans promoted. I'm starting to see Hispanic supervisors, and just to be honest with you, a lot's going to depend on your individual effort. And
Mm-hmm.
I think if you study hard enough, apply yourself hard enough, your intelligence will be known. And if you make a list, and the thing that has really aided a lot of people getting promoted now is a lot of the people I hired back in 91 and 92, those people now have they made rank and they have retired. So things
Mm.
like this are opening up a lot of new opportunities.
Yeah.
And people now would study, like so I see a lot of people that, including Afro Americans, I see a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the white officers that I knew. Everybody seems to be that applying themselves right now, seem to be getting promoted. So I would encourage the officers. You can't walk in and just think somebody's going to give you
Yeah.
a promotion.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
work for it.
Yeah.
And I would tell anybody, I worked hard for mine.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were just talking about the sheriff and stuff. It was
Mm-hmm.
people that worked for those promotions, and that's
Mm-hmm.
still what you got to do now. I think the burden that was early on, I think it's gone, and you have got to work for your promotion.
One
They're
thing
not
I
going to
saw,
just give it to you.
yeah, one thing I saw earlier is it was so, it just made me feel good. I had saw a lot of young homicide detectives on the scene one day. It was my stepbrother had got killed, but then it was probably 4 or 5 young African Americans. I know they under 40 was homicide detectives, and I was just like, whoa! I was like, and I just felt good about that. I was like, man, I didn't even know that exists. Like I didn't know you all was there. I heard of a couple here and there, but just to see that group, and I was just proud, and so to just to hear what you were saying, and just like, okay, yeah, so that there is a career in working in Little Rock
Right,
Police
and
Department.
that has changed. And I've been told, I haven't been at the police department forever, but I was told I'm the first full black homicide
Man,
detective,
that's
and this was in 1991,
yeah,
and I was the only one. Wouldn't have but one. And now, gosh, I can think of about four
that's something to
guys
celebrate.
that are in homicide right now, like you say, the young guys. And when I was a commander over there, I had probably at least four Afro Americans in there also, and most of them
Hmm.
were young.
Yeah, and that's something to celebrate. And I just you being the first full homicide detective, man, that's something to celebrate. Kudos to you, man, and the hard work you did. And I'm glad that you said, and that really means a lot. I think we all need to take the win. When we somewhere and we got our mind made up, and this is what I want to do, we shouldn't let nobody knock us off our
No,
journey.
you
Like,
can't let people turn you around. And I
yeah,
want to encourage people too. in my opinion, Little Rock Police Department's a great place to work. I mean, the pay, they give you all kinds of incentives, education pay for staying in Little Rock. When you make promotions, you get paid, and you realize when you get in the dub real quick that you need money to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it provides the opportunity. It's a job that you can stay on for a long time. Uh, if you don't mess up your career, we have so many people retirement, and the average retirement is at 28 years, and
Mm-hmm.
it flies by. So you take care of your business there, the job will take care of you. And I do realize that just American society in itself right now is pretty dangerous. And to
Mm-hmm.
tell somebody that there are not some dangers in it, I wouldn't do that. But I see more danger on people just on the streets now. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
sometimes just walking or driving around, America has changed, and I'd like to see it get back to normal.
Yeah, me too. And that's the question you're saying, cause is it do you ever get a chance to go talk to those young, especially young black African Americans, Hispanic, uh just put them all in a room and talk to them about what it took your mindset when you first came in, because of course we know there's something going on that me or you may not be able to see because they over here and you over here. Just that mindset to not let nobody knock you off your journey. And do you ever have a chance to go in and to kind of speak to those groups, because you have a wealth of knowledge, and if you went in 1970s, man, I can just imagine what was going on in the 70s, because it sure wasn't like the 2000s. But just talking to some of those guys, especially those lieutenant homicide guys, and just all those African Americans. I do see a lot of African Americans and Hispanics that are Little Rock police officers, and that makes me feel good that we moving up in that space and
Well,
everything.
the thing I do for officers, and I still do that, I encourage them to try to move up. That includes the white officers, the black
Mm-hmm.
officers, the female
Mm-hmm.
officers. I think that if you're in an organization, your mind should be focused on moving up, doing better. And I try to encourage them. In the past, I have helped other officers study to try to get promoted, black and white, females, because I just think in any organization or structure, going up the ladder should be kind of important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe in being around being a 27 or a 28-year patrolman.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody should make an effort to, like I tell guys, if you don't do anything else, try to make sergeant, be some kind of supervisor there.
Yeah. And I know we was only gonna be at 30 minutes, and I got one more question. I know some people in the audience said something about mentors, so I did. She asked about Miss Lunny asked about how is the program going in Southwest, recruiting and mentoring students. I don't know if you that's your area, if you know anything about that, recruiting over
I'm
there.
actually not connected to that, so I don't
Yeah.
know much about the mentor. And I know that the police department offers many different programs for kids. The city does, but I'm not part of the mentoring program,
Mm-hmm.
and really know very little about it.
Mm-hmm. So Lieutenant, if it's Lieutenant King, if it was something you want to leave us with, to share with us, and I thank you for giving us a little insight about how it was in your time and what it looks like today. And it's very hopeful for all my friends that are police officers. It's hopeful for me to know that there is a path to captain, lieutenant, and maybe even possible chief, because I see them out there, and the things that I hear from the other side about people always fighting those African American police for whatever reason they fighting them for. But it just feels good to know that there's a path to captain one day, chief or major for them, because there are some good people in place. And just my opinion, I haven't been focused on the Little Rock Police Department a lot, but it feels good to hear from some of them just talking about the positive things that Chief Humphrey has done for the Little Rock Police Department. And so that feels good to just kind of hear them. And so I am a person just a big supporter of Chief Humphrey, and I'm just glad that he's taking a lot of flack from a lot of people. Sometimes some of them that look like us and some don't. But I just want to say thank you for what you have done, and man, that's just kudos. 40 years, man. I'm sure that should be the first Black homicide detective. That there's got to be a room, or I mean, I know you probably don't want it. Got to be a room or something, or a community center, something for your service, man, because that shouldn't go unnoticed, man. So thank you, and thank your wife for just being supportive for you, man, because I know it wasn't easy. 2,500 bodies, man. Thank your wife for just being supportive of you and being there for you, man. Just your whole family, man. So we all really appreciate it. I get a lot of thank you sign from my Facebook page. I've been monitoring on my phone. People being appreciated. Shout out to College Station, man, for producing one of the
Okay.
best.
And let me end it with this. Good discipline is the best thing a police officer can have. And I'll tell you a quick Chief
Good
Humphrey
discipline.
story. When he was coming in visiting, you know, they were inviting all of the candidates to the substations and stuff. Well, I'm sitting there. I had seen his picture somewhere, and to be honest, I didn't pay much attention to it. But he finally visited the Northwest Station there at 12th Street. And the time he walked in, he looked at me. He said, "Hey, man, I know you." I trying to turn around and look at him, man, I know you too. I've been knowing Chief Humphreys for almost 30 years, man.
For real?
Before he come to Little Rock, yes.
Yeah.
And he is a great guy. He works hard. And I think he brought some new innovation and stuff when they were doing the Chiefs interviews over there at Philander. And I could just see and feel through the knowledge of who had new visions and new ideals when I was listening to these candidates, and I got real interested in the end. So
yeah,
I appreciate
so you was hands on. You want to see.
Oh yeah, I can evaluate one of them.
yeah. Well, Lieutenant, King, I really appreciate it, and I thank you for coming on, blessing your voice, your reason. With no talking points needed, the blessings for the first episode of season 2, the first episode of 2022. Man, I'm hopefully I can all this COVID stuff get over, man. Catch it, man. Grab some lunch or some. I don't eat.
I still have the 11 o'clock rule. I eat lunch at 11 o'clock every day.
Yeah, and Sonny Keller said thank you too, and everybody else that's playing it.
I tell Marcus that she was listening. Marcus is my nephew.
Okay, and she said something about Uncle Glenn.
Yeah, she's my niece.
Yeah.
I do know her.
Yeah. So man, and just thank you, man, for just blessing your voice, your reason, and just man, thank you again, and thank everybody for coming on and all the comments, and we appreciate that. I'll be joining you all sometime again next month or maybe even this month. So thank you again, Lieutenant.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
No problem. Thank you for coming. All right, I see you. Peace out, everybody.